Conversations with Frank Jordan and the Earth Mind Think Tank Group. We welcome all listeners and chatters. Any questions can be called in to 1-775-657-5973. 1-775-657-5973. If you're in the chat room on Wolf Spirit Radio, which is wolfspiritradio.com/wolf chat, please post questions in uppercase letters, in capital letters. Thank you.
Good morning. We are on the air. This is Wolf Spirit Radio. This is July 16th, 2014. And the Earth Mind Think Tank has come together one more time. Frank Jordan Meditation Group. And we are working on world weather patterns, Gaia, anything of nature that draws our attention as being out of whack. And there's been plenty out of whack in the recent months. And we were just discussing a typhoon that was scheduled to come into Japan, which we worked on in the last show, but apparently it dissipated. So our efforts were effective there. And does anyone have anything else they'd like to contribute to work on this morning?
Bring some rain into the drought areas. We have some clouds here now, so I think we can turn them into some rain.
Okay. I checked on that, and it's just small oceanic rain clouds drifting in. Like it's not strong enough to really create much of a flow. But if we put our attention out in the ocean, Pacific Ocean, 4 days out, and with our mind begin to create a counterclockwise world of energy, pulling down from the golden grid enough energy to sustain this, and visualize that working in toward the Southern California, picking up moisture as it comes. We can see it impacting Southern California in 4 to 5 days, and slowing down and sitting there and churning energy in. It takes a tremendous amount of energy to do this. This is why we call on the golden grid, where we have a tremendous amount of energy stored. And to continue to build up the power of that, we will do our Ring of Fire meditation and continue to transfer energy, translate energy from earthquake solar energy into the golden grid energy. So let's go directly to that now. Take your awareness to your foreheads. Step back, looking for any block right in that point. Any resistance at all. Take a moment to clear it, because that's the block between our conscious reasoning, interactive mind, and our indwelling soul. And that's where the religions like to impose blocks, or any strong consciousness, to keep us from thinking for ourselves or creating our own realities. I move on back to the soul center and feel the commonality of the group mind soul consciousness. Reach out through Wolf Spirit Radio and touch everyone listening. Beyond that, into the common grid, the soul grid. And unify that grid, the intent and power of that grid, to focus on the 0 point of Earth and Earth mind, to bring harmony and peace back into the weather patterns. And to do that, we'll go back in time to a point in time where normal cycles were occurring on the earth. And pull that pattern forward through the standing waves into the moment now, using that power to neutralize any cosmic forces that are disrupting the weather patterns. We project that into the future, and we'll work as a group mind consciousness a little more later in the show. Now take your awareness back to the soul center and draw back to the psychic center in the area of the pineal. Now this is where we can communicate directly on our human level of consciousness, the conscious reasoning mind. They just connect with the group mind, the psychic mind of the group. So our intent is unified and we have greater focus of power and desire and will acting on the energy. And only focus that on the 0 point and hold it there. Whatever we come up with in this show or this series of shows will be recorded in Earth Mind and manifested. Now step on back deeper. Let yourself expand into the subconscious mind, which is the chakra system, the information drawn up from the hard disk of our biocomputer. This is how we communicate with our hard disk, and where we store information and draw information. This is, as opposed to the frontal lobes of the brain, which is short-term memory, this is long-term memory. And this long-term memory is in direct resonance through the root chakra with the crust of the earth, which is the akashic records or permanent data storage base. That storage base is what supplies the instinctive consciousness that supports all living things through DNA. To feel this extended state of consciousness, so our intent, our unified soul intent, can bring about changes. And to do that, we go now to Southern California in the earthquake grid. Go to the San Andreas Fault and all the lateral faults in that area and feel, tune in and become one with the earth now. It's like projecting yourself there down into the earth with your intent being to lift and release the stress energy that are building up that hasn't been released as earthquakes yet. And we lift that energy up your spine, up the unified spine of all humanity. And so as soon as you have the flow established in yourself, reach out through the Earth Mind Think Tank group to the radio group, then on out into the commonality of the human consciousness. And we feel that flow up our spines, out through our crown chakra, out into the ionosphere, the golden grid. Now you should be able to feel an energy field above your eyes that's connected, earth mind, with our indwelling soul. with intent of clearing the building earthquake stress energy, lifting it up into the ionosphere, distributing around the earth to wherever it is needed. Now move your awareness northward to San Diego. And on up through Los Angeles. Further north to San Francisco. There's a lot of minor activity in this entire subduction zone area. The subduction of the Pacific plate beneath the mountainous plate. Now take your awareness inland. Large scattering of minor quakes, stress building up. And this is from the subduction zone that creates the Sierra Nevada mountains. Now shift your awareness eastward and southward again into the Rocky Mountain chain. It runs all the way to the Canadian border. All of these various mountain chains has interconnectivity, because when we see excitation in one area, it'll also be reflected in other areas. And that's what we're seeing today, is an intensification up through northern Wyoming and into Montana all the way to the border. And we put particular attention on the Yellowstone caldera. We lift that building pressure upward, and we reinforce what we've created in past broadcasts. We reinforce that funnel that rises up out of that cauldron that we put there permanently. We reinforce the visualization and the function of that cauldron, so it will continue to pull energy, distribute it through the golden grid. All energy is the same, except it holds different forms of manifestation through transmutation, the application of desire and will, intent and energy. We can recreate through the devic forces of consciousness. And bring to manifestation desirable things. Now move your awareness westward to the Pacific Northwest, Sierra Nevada, the Cascade Range, the ancient volcanoes there create umbrellas of energy, funnels of energy, pulling off the subduction zone energy of the San Juan de Fuca plate. I moved northward to Alaska, to the subduction zone from the North Pacific Plate, subducting under south central Alaska, creating tremendous ongoing activity there. uh, 10 on the Richter scale. Now take the awareness down the Aleutian Trench, the Aleutian Islands, to Nikolsky, 5.0 there. But generally the activity is a lot lighter than usual. And move westward to Russia. At 4.7 at Kamchatka, Starovay, Russia. Then south down through the Aleutian Trench, Kamchatka Trench, to Japan, and just off the coast of Japan, there's a 6.5, 135 kilometers east of Namai, which is just almost directly east of Tokyo. Lift that energy upward, and we utilize this energy to wrap into the radioactive energy being released from the reactors. We encompass that energy in a spiral of protective energy. And transmute the radioactivity into beneficial energy in the golden grid. And again, we reinforce what we've done there before, so this will continue to work automatically. Now take your awareness southward to Taipei, 5.3 near Harare, Japan. Lift that upward. Now move southward. There's a 6.3 at Pondiglutian, in the Philippines. It looks like volcanic activity. Lift that upward. And the entire Indonesia crescent, there's a scattering of some underwater, some on the land, of activity, releasing energy from the Java Trench subduction. Carry that upward. Move eastward to New Guinea and the Solomon Islands, 5 Point, Chiruvanga, and further north, 4.8 at Rabaul, Papua, then down in the Vanuatu chain, a 5.1, then eastward to the Tonga Islands, quite a bit of activity there, and moves southward to New Zealand. Just extend yourselves through that entire fault line that comes right through the big island. Do a preemptive lifting of that energy. And we can feel the stress of that building up if they have regular releases there. Now we move eastward across the Pacific to South America. To the Andes Mountains. Quite a bit of activity in the Andes Mountains in Chile, around Monte Patria. That would be volcanic, so lift that upward. Caused by the subduction zone. As we lubricate the plates, the subduction zone lubricated. Full length of South America, up through Iquique, Cumana, northward to Central America, where there's ongoing activity in the volcanic subduction zone. Lift those energies upward. Then eastward to the Dominican Republic. Seems to be a slight intensification of larger earthquakes there. So release that energy so it won't build up. Now go northeast to the Mediterranean Sea, Mediterranean Basin, in the southern border of Spain, on that fault line at Arenas del Rey, Spain, 4.2. Then to Greece, to the ongoing activity at Nea Artaki. And 4.2 at Eniz, Turkey. And a 4.3 at Finiki, Turkey. And move on eastward to Afghanistan, the northern border. 5.0 at Klum, Afghanistan. This is in that range of really rough mountains that's being thrust up by the India subduction zone. 50 at Clume. And we move eastward to the plateau of Tibet. There's 40 at Chemo out on the Tibetan desert. The Talamankamara desert. And the 4.2 at Mindong, China, just north of the Himalayas. Now we move into China proper, and although there's no activity, we know it in the mountain ranges to the west of China. They like to build up to big releases. So just tune into that general area and release the buildup that can be very destructive for Chinese. I'll bring your awareness across the Pacific to our point of beginning and on into central United States. In Oklahoma, there's an increasing number of small to mid-range earthquakes there. There was even an article on the news saying that they attribute this to the fracking in that area. There's at least 10 sites there that are releasing around Medford, Oklahoma, and Luther, Oklahoma. Now move eastward to Missouri, the New Madras Fault, south of Lebanon, Missouri. That's trying to build up, but we continually pull the energy off of it, and it, now we take our awareness to Iraq. Lift our awareness up the spine, back into the communal area of our brains. Reach out and touching the people of Iraq, principally the leaders, directly into the leaders, where they've finally gotten rid of Maliki, it appears, and they are forming a government. And we do see stability coming back into the region as they push ISIS out to the north. We tune into the general feeling of family, and pattern into the 3 primary tribes, the feeling of unity, of belonging to one country, and not trying to dominate other areas through their force of will. They're recognizing the benefits of parliamentary procedure, and we see them moving rapidly to elect a new premier to replace Maliki, and the ROV will happen immediately afterward. And we see this triggering the world reset of financial institutions and how the world conducts its business. So we spread the concept of dominion into the minds and consciousness of all the people involved in the financial structure. And we we see the weakening of the Federal Reserve System. Now that the Treasury, the new U.S. Treasury notes are being issued to replace the Fed notes. We see that shift happening, and the compromising energy of the cabal being reduced as people gain strength in unity with the desire for peaceful translation into dominion, and doing this through education and agreement. And we see the religious organizations of the world supporting this, even as they are transcending into dominion. We again look at the weather patterns, and from the position of the observer in space, we visualize the weather patterns following normal, harmonious cycles around the Earth, and that low pressure area we've created spinning in the South Pacific, spinning towards California, gathering moisture, breaking down the high pressure ridge, that dome that is blocking the weather fronts from moving through. We see the air masses between the hot and cold masses blending smoothly without creating severe weather or thunderstorms. Now bring your awareness back into the psychic centers. Does anyone else have anything they would like to contribute at this time?
I would like to say words of gratitude to Gaia for very beautiful weather here in Ontario, Canada. We've been having rain, sunshine, a mix of really beautiful weather, and I am very
All right, we're working on the typhoon in the Philippines. We'll create a huge vortex, a rising vortex of energy lifting up into the golden grid to pull the energy away from the typhoon and up into the golden grid where it circles the Earth as a shield to Earth. At this time there is no solar activity. So what we want to do is strengthen the golden grid with all the building typhoons on Earth or hurricanes. There's some out in the Atlantic. Lift those energies into the golden grid to shield us from the effects of Nibiru, which some are to say is approaching and has been for some time. And the scientists aren't telling us anything about it because they can't do anything about it. This is why the mad construction of underground cities has been going on for the last 15 years, since 1988, when they discovered the red planet's approach. And they actually sent out a satellite to view it with infrared, because it is red. And the scientists know it's there, but rather than cause concern in people, they simply don't tell us about it. They take steps to protect themselves and the big shots. So what we want to do now is strengthen the golden grid, strengthen the protection of Earth, so when Guru, with its tremendous magnetic pull, comes through, it's repulsed. And to do that, we put a repulsing energy in the grid, like positive to positive, to repulse the atmosphere, the energetic field of the red planet. We visualize that happening now, and it's not been announced when it's due to arrive, and they won't announce it. It'll just suddenly appear. But there are those that say it's coming within the next 3 years, and this gives us plenty of time to create a strong magnetic repulsion of Nibiru to help push it further out in its orbit, so it is not destructive to the world. Does any of you know anything about this? Mike, have you seen anything on it?
I dropped for a while. You were talking about when is Nibiru passing?
Yeah.
I'll have to do some investigation. It seems like it's really toned down. There were a lot of people, and for example, I had someone I know who was, unfortunately was coming at it from a strictly biblical perspective. So I think literally there was a bunch of people that may have damaged themselves by, making very rigid predictions. And I think some of them were like standing out in the backyard, that day waiting for it to end. And since it didn't happen, it's thrown everybody off. So the answer is I don't know much. It seems like it really toned down.
Yeah. Rich, have you seen any activity of that nature?
No, I thought it was on its way out.
No, that wasn't Nibiru. That was the blue Kachina that comes before Nibiru does.
Well, that was 1.5 years ago.
Yeah. So let's make it a point to research and find out what we can and see if there's any scientific validation for it one way or another. But it is time. This is the 3,600-year period. It's actually 3,653 years when it cycles back through. So let's be prepared and continue to reinforce the golden grid and unify the consciousness of humans, all humankind, to create a force that will repel it when it comes. Does anyone else have anything you'd like to comment on today? We have plenty of time.
I'd like to ask, where did this originate? This whole story about Nibiru. Where does it come from?
Well, it's actually was discovered in the Sumerian records. And historically, every 3,600 years or so, there's been a tremendous disruption of Earth, and this is read in the geological features on the Earth too. This is what caused the Great Flood 12,000 years ago, and it periodically wipes out civilization. And it's the rogue planet that is the home of the Anunnaki, who were the gods that came to Earth to mine gold and created humans to be their slaves and mine gold for them. And I researched this quite extensively, particularly through Zecharia Sitchin's work And it is true history. It's living history, the oldest written history we have, and parts of it is written by the demigods, the Nibiruans, sons and daughters, recording their own exploits, and it is quite true. So it is there. It will happen, and that's why the government created the great underground bases around the world, and put enough food storage for hundreds of thousands of people for as many as 10 years, so that when the Nibiru passage is completed and Earth comes back to stability, they'll come out and create a new population, a new world. But it'll still be acting in domination. If they were acting in dominion, they would let us all know about it, what's happening, to give us time to prepare to the degree that we can, and to help each other to prepare and survive. So, do any of you...
I think it's an Anunnaki trick to use this Nibiru thing to put the fear factor out there for folks to make the cycle continue and continue on and on. But if we stand up and say dominion, because I heard the Anunnakis are not allowed here, the energy, the vibration raised to such a level where it push them back to wherever they came from, or but in any case, I think it's I think it's a powerful time, and they want us to believe that it's going to be a disaster, but really it is the coming of the new age, is my point of view. Thank you.
If we follow the pattern set by the Anunnaki, it will be disastrous for us. But if we follow the pattern we're setting, of moving into dominion, we'll have the power to alleviate and neutralize its forces. So it's going to be a great challenge, a spiritual challenge for us, as well as a physical survival challenge. I've seen others who predict it will come like in 2022 or so, 23. That's when Sitchin thought it would come. But we're having difficulty getting anybody to admit it. They can see it sitting out there from the southern hemisphere. They can see it sitting out on a path that just comes close by the sun, and it's on its way in. And this is by scientists in South America and Australia that are not allied with the governments of Britain and the U.S. and Russia. So let's do a little research, see what you can come up with, so we can keep an eye on this. Anything else? Walt, do you have anything for us today?
No, I was just sharing in the chat other sources, like for example, Andrew Bartzis insists that the whole thing of Nibiru is the collective, I guess, at the unconscious level, were programmed into believing into it in order to manifest it. That in reality, there is no Nibiru out there, that there is no risk. So I don't know. Some people say this, others say that. Maybe it's Planet X. I really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like I don't trust Zachariah Sitchin as far as I can throw him. He has the same mother as David Rockefeller and
Bartzis says that
Henry
Sitchin
Kissinger.
Doesn't have it right. He says that he says he almost had it right, but he doesn't say what he almost had right.
Sitchin? He's deliberately...
Yeah, Andrew Bartzis does not
Zachariah
vouch
Sitchin is Illuminati right down to the ground from both ends.
I don't know.
So that's what they're deliberately put. It's the best disinfo is you put 90% truth and then 10% of bullshit just to throw everybody off.
Well, the thing with collectively influencing people into believing something that you want everyone to believe, therefore reinforcing whatever reality you want to create, it's not even a new idea, because for all of us here in the group that have read anything about human history, for example, comets. anybody out there now, kids in school are being taught comets are these chunks of stone and ice that periodically go and come into the solar system. They go around the sun. They have this nice little shiny tail, and then they go back out to this Oort cloud, correct? Well, but if you go back to times before this was publicly known, comets were being sold as portents of great disaster. That's where the word disaster comes from. It means evil star. And people were sold on this idea. So, oh my God, the comet is coming. The world is coming to an end, and it's just a piece of rock moving through the sky. So the idea of selling some celestial movement as the end of everything, it's not even original or new.
Well, that doesn't alter the fact that there has been periodic destruction hit the Earth from some source.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Any other ideas? We still have a few minutes. One thing I've observed is the effect that human consciousness has on Gaia, on the Earth itself. When we get a great concentration of wars or dissent or any kind of collective force, we see disruptions primarily in the weather patterns, but I'm also noticing that they parallel earthquakes also in activities. So that's more and more as I observe this, I'm becoming convinced that our collective mind, which is the collective mind of God experiencing all things possible as human, our collective mind has the power to negatively affect or to positively affect circumstances and evolution on Earth. So the more power and force we put on dominion, the more creative we become in understanding how that can be, the closer we'll come to that reality.
Here's a little thought I have for today. I noticed that it seemed like the messaging, disinfo messaging on the mainstream financial channel today is all about cyber attack, by evil foreigners, and I could see these guys, start trying to stage some sort of a false flag financial attack where they basically take one of their banks that's in trouble and disappear it and then try and blame it on the Chinese. So I think we should put the messaging out there. The group think has to be that we don't believe that there's really a big threat from that, and that the power of the dark side to convince us that this is a real threat and from some external source is futile, and that we realize that they're just trying to create fear, and that if there really were perps, it would be them and not some external force, and we should just then send out our energy, or dissipate the dark side energy thought.
Diversion. They could be doing some diversion thing. That's what they do a lot.
Oh yeah, I think if they wanted to, hide a bad bank or disappear some bad assets or perp a theft, they could just act like someone was a hacker attack. I mean, I think that there's a good chance that there's something a lot more. Something going on with Bernie Madoff. I think a lot of that money might have been saved from the market collapse to wealthy individuals overseas. Because so that whole thing is highly suspect. Anyway,
all the money.
And that attack, the risk of that attack is the excuse they want to use. That article, I think I sent it to you, and I said maybe you already know about this. That article that I got where they want to merge banks with governments.
Yeah, well, it's their excuse. It's their excuse to
using security as an excuse.
The security is an excuse for everything they want to do that basically clamps down on, that takes away freedom and increases their control, their power consolidation. So
Dominion.
That's right. We allow there to be no fear.
Right on.
Exactly. We're running the show now. We're taking over.
Negative this morning, so
those guys are screwed. And we're going to do what the people are going to find out that you can actually make things happen with the way Frank is doing it, and the way Rich is doing it. There's stuff going on that's on subtle planes that are actually control the physical planes.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to learn how to control that and manipulate it for the benefit of everybody. That's what Frank's doing, right?
It works in the small things. It works in the large things. I mean, here we are working to release stress from earthquakes. Why can't we create what we want? As long as we have enough backing, focus, and love, forget about the other stuff. We know there's manipulation going on, but guess what? It was created from something, so we can create what we want.
We get educated so we know what's going on. Then we know where to focus our attention. If you know what's really going on, if you know what the truth is, then everybody knows what to pay attention to.
Right.
Well, that's everything that's been talked about right now, and you are all hitting it on the head. Is energy, and it's up to us to make the energy go towards dominion, the highest good of all, positive for everyone.
Right. Exactly.
And we need to realize we are not a small force. We had 133,000 listeners on that program we did. I think it was on the spring solstice, Dave told me. So that's a powerful force.
Wow. It is.
I got an article from Enelia Benz in the mail, and it inspired me to do my own exercise, because she says that the energy of the June solstice it was so great that it's a great opportunity to jump timelines. And she says you're a second away from a different timeline, and you can put yourself in the timeline that you want. And she says, like, if you're sick of the house you're in, the relationship you're in, the job you're in, move yourself to a timeline where you have what you're wanting. And I thought, that sounds like a great idea. What if I put myself in the Dominion timeline, where there's abundance for everyone, there's no want, there's no fear of want, because nobody has to want for anything, and so on and so forth. And just see, move that line into our heart center, just unplug whatever was there and just plug in the new timeline, and know that you're there, instead of endless waiting.
Right.
I've listened to that since I got back from Denver. I've listened to that YouTube show that Rachel recommended, and about the ego, and that is so right on. I would recommend that we listen not only to that, but others of her programs too, because she's one of the few people that post these things that has a true concept, a true grasp of how consciousness works. And I think we do well to become a listener and report what we can, that we can consolidate down into pure information and share that with each other. Not to change the subject, but to change the subject, there are a few good people out there we can be listening to and working with.
Exactly. We got to join together with all the other factions that are all working for the same end, the same result. Maybe they're flying a different flag, or they're or wearing different clothes or something, but talking a different talk. But they're all want to get to the same place, which where we're going.
Well, it's like a wagon wheel. If you only have one spoke, it kind of flops along. But if you put all the spokes of all the thoughts and opinions into the circle and surround it with a wheel, a rim, with one axle, then it all flows together smoothly. That's what we have to do.
Yeah.
I recently was listening to a dowser by the name of Raymond Grace, and it was a bit of an older YouTube, and he was this is changing the subject, but it's still in line with what we do. And a friend of his was making copper and brass flower of life rings that were about a foot across, 1.5 feet across, and they were doing experiments with it. And the gentleman's father had asked for help from some engineers. Can we make a sphere out of this flower of life sphere? And they all told him, oh no, it's not possible. So that spurred him on to create one of his own. And he had made a huge one. He said it was about 7 feet across, and you could actually open the lid of it and walk or like crawl into it. And they had some very profound healing experiences with it. And then he was making just the rings, and they were making discoveries like putting it just throwing one in the bottom of a pool and having someone who required healing to just swim through the pool, and a person with extreme pain had swam from one end of the pool to the other, and when they came out the other side, there was no pain, or there was no indication of this malady. And he was joking, saying that it was very much like a sheep dip. And it made me think that perhaps the grid that is around the Earth, the golden grid, we can strengthen it even further by intending that it be the flower of life in a 3D form around us.
That would be a perfect idea, and particularly have it resonance to all the waters on Earth, including the oceans, to stabilize and clear the pollution and to heal. Water is a wonderful healing tool. It does hold energy, and you can hold a glass of water in your hand, as you well know, and pattern desired will into it, drink it, and it responds in your system in that way. Another thing I saw the other day, and I've been doing this, is put a large crystal in a glass of water, let it sit there 3 or 4 hours before you drink it, and I can actually feel the polarity of that water. It repolarizes the water to the crystalline consciousness, so it's in direct resonance when you drink the water with the silicon dioxide in your own cells. And with the ability to program a crystal, we can put desire and intent into the crystal to continue resonating the water we drink. And so I've been doing that, and it works.
There are actually some little water systems out there that are similar to that, where you filter it, and they encourage people to put crystals in the bottom of it, and it helps to actually structure the water. And what structuring water means is that the molecules take on the six-sided crystalline form, and as it would recreate as it goes down, let's say a stream, a mountain stream, and it's bumping into and swirling around in curves around rocks and so on. And so that actually helps to restructure it. So pouring it, even in a glass, just pouring it in and allowing it to bounce around helps to structure it. And of course, the intent of it to restructure and be a beneficial energy that is absorbed by each and every cell. Like you can intend for every cell in your body to hydrate with the intent in those crystals.
Perfect. Well, we're out of time. It's been wonderful to be with you all again, and we look forward to next Saturday when we will do this again at 10 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, and Sunday when we'll do our regular healing program at 6 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Until then, thank you, Dave. We appreciate your efforts mightily and send you love and goodwill and healing.